Welcome into Session 3 of the L.I.F.E Professional Development Series, Effectiveness and Professional Alignment. It's easy to confuse being busy with being effective, and to lose sight of who we are underneath the role we play. Today, we're slowing down to ask a harder question. Are we operating in alignment with our values, our purpose, and the person we actually want to be at work? Let's dig in.
But today I want to get started so I can give us as much time as we can. Today's conversation and kind of training conversation is going to be a bit, I don't want to call it heavy, but what I do want to call it is very much so intentional. And what I mean by that is it's going to cause and create some reflection, not just on, we've talked about internally kind of how we show up. We've talked about, a lot of the different confrontation ways and methods of communication within confrontation and conflict. Most of that's been internal. And in the very first training, we had the question about, and we ended, how do you know when to go? Right? Kind of like, when do we get to a place where it's beyond burnout? And we kind of talked through, and I said, just put a pin there, because we have to gain some trust, and we have to gain and cultivate some understanding that once we get to that bridge, we're all willing and able to cross it judgment-free, and in a space where it's celebratory, right? And we're not looking at whether we're to grow or to go in a way of finality or success or failure, plus minus. We're able to look and grow into a place of understanding and understanding that it's truly where the next place is for us to show up and how we get to that level. And so today, it may just be, it's not going to be heavy, but it's going to be honest. And so I want us to make sure that we have something to write with, write on. And it's going to be important that we take the time to actually write things down. I'm going to share my screen. This is not a PowerPoint session. This is not a presentation session. This is a real reflection session, and we're going to get to the end. And the tool today is going to be how to create and cultivate that action plan, right? Like that growth plan. What's next? And be able to truly measure where you're at, and when it's time to grow to that next level, and then when it's time to go. There's an actual tool that exists for us to kind of help go through that. So first, if everybody can, I like to make sure that we're good. And I'm going to be letting people in as we go. And I already said that we're competing with the World Cup. So I already know, right? Today we're celebrating. And if you see me going up like this, is not my TV on. I promise it's not. And it's not on the World Cup. And it's not. Truthfully, it's really genuinely not. But I do want us to give a little bit of time for the group, because if we do jump in a little too deep, too fast, it'd be a little awkward to come out. So just talk to me. How was everybody's last week or 2 weeks, ending of the month, going into a new month? Any updates? Anybody feeling any kind of way? Negative, positive? What I'd like for us to do is, in the chat, if you can put 0 to 10 where you are. 0 is you're lucky. I'm not bringing my camera on. We're not doing that. I'm just here. 10 is I'm abundant. I feel great. I feel good. This has been a great week. It's hump day, and I still feel like I'm rolling. So good. Put where we are, and then let me see if I can jump in here and share. Good. Hey, okay, everybody, we're feeling good. I feel like I am I'm not low. I'm not low, but it's a lot of transition. It's a lot of transition that's happening. And I don't know if y'all are like me. When you're in transition and you feel like you have so much on your shoulders, you don't tense up, but you get vigilant. And so I feel like I'm at a solid 6, right? 5, 6, but that's not necessarily emotional. That's just capacity, right? So I'm just at a capacity where it's like, I'm finding myself finding my moments of isolation. So today, again, our title and our theme is effectiveness and professional alignment. So when we talk about effectiveness and we talk about where we're aligned and how we're aligned, it's really important for us to understand and understand when it's time to move. Oftentimes we find ourselves stuck, and it's because we're empty and we can't pour from an empty cup. And so we need to know exactly how we fill that cup. Is it time to fill that cup with more of what we've been doing, or do we move? And one of the ways that I want to really look at that is asking and answering this question together. We've asked what we're doing with this work, like why are we in this work? We've asked those questions. Now we kind of need to look at what this work has done to you, right? What has this work done to me? Oftentimes, we want to hold on to the first reason. Remember when we first started, I said, why are you doing this? Why did you get into this work? And we all had a reason. And as we go, we want to hold on to that reason, or we don't give ourselves permission to expand that reason, to change that reason. And we kind of guilt ourselves in that because we are passionate. Passion is one of the most dangerous components to really run yourself on in this work, because passion is one of those things that you will always find a way to produce passion, even if it's at the detriment of self. You will just become less efficient, less effective, and less aligned. So the question that we need to ask often, not from time to time, we need to ask this question often, not just to self, but to other people. We need to understand and take inventory of what this work has done to me. And so I want us to look at this in how many of us know about SWOT analysis? Right? How many of us know? So we look at strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And let me see here. Let's see how fast I can share my screen, guys. Let's see. So I want you to consider yourselves to look at something like this. Your paper is something like this. And all of these materials will be on the virtual portal, which I want us to take some time to get on today, right? Collectively, so we can make sure. I'm going to be putting these in there. And it's a few other worksheets that I want you all to be able to have print off and actually take your time to go through. So instead of a SWOT, I use SWOT in business. Y'all know I'm a consultant, so I do a lot of consulting work. And we have to look at that when it comes to building a strategic plan, when it comes to alignment, when it comes to just about anything. The SWOT analysis has been probably one of the most efficient and effective tools that I've leaned on. So looking at it this way, when it comes to human services, we've been able to kind of internalize this and externalize this at the same time. So when we look at the SWOT, we're looking in the 4 areas of what do you need to continue to keep growing, right? When we look at, well, first, what I want you to answer when I say that, I think I jumped ahead a little bit too far. Let me go back. I want you to answer, before we get into this, who were you when you started this work? Like, I really want you to write that down, right? I want you to write that down. Who are you when you started this work? It's going to be important. Let me stop this real quick and find that. Who were you when you started this work? And what I mean by that is not necessarily just your, your personality type, but I want you to really kind of consider your skill set, right? What was your skill set when you started this work? When it came to dealing with conflict, when it came to communication, were you fearful to communicate with people? Like, what, when you started this work, what was that? Who were you in context? Take some time, answer that. Let me see if I can't find the. Let me have that. So think about that. And then I want you to even go back before you started this work. I want you to think about, who were you before you started this work? Like way before. There it is. Let me help us here. Anybody want to share kind of who you remember yourself to be before you started this work? Anything stand out to you? Any personality traits you kind of recognize? Any people please? Anything stand out to you?
Can you hear me today?
Yeah. Hey, Laura.
Hey, hi everybody. I don't know if I answered correctly. I was trying to write it down.
Okay.
Who was I before or when I started, or both
Before,
questions?
either one.
Ooh, goodness, this could take me back. Before starting this work, I was in college and doing like part-time work, just trying to survive and get like passing grades. So I was like more of like a hustle mentality, like trying to be a full-time student and work part-time, just trying to like just survive. So I was picking up shifts, working more, 2 jobs, all of that type of thing. Then I was more of a social butterfly because my friends were my life. Was in my early 20s. And then but before I started this work, I was very focused on what population I wanted to work with. And during undergrad, it was more so I wanted to go into like geriatric work because there was a lot of nursing home assisted living being shut down. And I really enjoyed my human services case management class because that's what my undergrad is in, health services management.
Okay.
Supposed to have been nursing, but I couldn't get the grade. I'm like, this is too much. I can't
Look.
work in. So that was the before starting because I always had a nurturing spirit and wanted to help and advocate for people. Then it brought me into social work. Social work found me. I was not going to look for it, but I had my master's in social work, health concentration. And then the second part, when I started this work with conflict, I was a little bit more timid, a little bit more shy. But when I started working at Department of Child Services in Indiana, I had to get rid of that real quick because it's like confrontational assessment. I'm coming knocking on your door telling you didn't abuse kids and I have to do a whole investigation. So I had to learn to speak up for myself, be comfortable, and learn conflict management skills.
Yeah.
Personality, I feel like it's always been good and engaging because I used to bartend too. So, you need that to talk to people and you actually almost a therapist. So
Yeah,
it's like they
absolutely.
come in and they just spill their whole life. Then again, I was fresh out of college, hungry for any opportunity to get the experience. I started at as a care coordinator in a inpatient. It was like a therapy clinic inside of an assisted living community. And that was quite interesting, seeing these 65, 70, 80-year-olds fighting over who in the relationship, who take you to the store. I don't want to come to therapy today. So it was a lot of, I need you to buy into the plan to make you come and bribing. So that's how I was when I started this work.
When I hear you, and when I hear us talk about this thing, I think about being green. A lot of us say that a lot. We know we get a lot of folks in this work that you're new. When you think about some of those things about when you got in here and you were green, you would go to, because of this work I am, right? What I want us to consider are the skills that you've acquired in this work, where it be personality, where it be actual management, or for me and others, it's actual training. So a lot of our certifications, a lot of the workshop, the groups that you go to, the skill training that you have, I want you to write down and to consider who you've become because of this work. Okay, so we're putting some things together when we're considering who we were before. We've been in this thing a little bit, and then there's a because. Those of us with kids, or those of us with nieces and nephews, those of us with young people, specifically young people, 10 or under, that have known you probably for at least 3 years. They've known you a little bit before, and now I've seen you right now. They're the ones that will tell you the truth about yourself. Okay? They're the ones that, so I want us to consider when I'm saying, who have you been who has this work made you become? Think about who they told you are. Good and bad. Okay? Good and bad. I want you to consider that for yourself. Then I want you to think about the skills particularly that you desired when you walked into the front door the first day. What were the skill sets that you were hoping and desiring yourself to learn? And what were the skill sets that you knew you had and that you could use? Okay? Specifically your skills. Because on the other side of this, what we need to reflect on, have you increased your toolbox, your arsenal, weaponry, however violent you want to look at it, your work may become, right? However you look at it, I like to think about it sometimes as weapons. I work a lot with violence, so it just kind of makes me get some of that trauma out. So I look at it that way. So there's a sense for me when I had to realize, Kevin, the skills that you are gaining are not necessarily the skills that you desired to have. Because some things happen during that space that we either move way too fast through because of just what we have to do. We talked about that in the very first session. We've normalized doing too much. We've normalized having to carry so much. We've normalized having to suppress so much in order to show up certain ways. And so inside of that normalcy, creating that new normal, our skill sets, our personalities, they shift and they change, and we justify them based upon the consequences or the deliverables or the success failure rate in our outcome. So whether the job is saying you're doing well, you got a promotion, you could feel like terrible and get a promotion and say, I'm doing it right. But are you really what are we doing right? You could be making a very good decision for your own well-being to show up proper for your client and you could actually become consequenced. You delivered the wrong deliverable. How does that impact you? And what is that called? How many times do things like that happen when your persona, who you are, doesn't necessarily align with the consequence in which you receive? And it's almost like a cognitive dissonance of what's happening. Where does that energy go? Where does that impact go? And how does that show up inside of you and externally? So I want us to answer, what does it look like when we talk about professional grief? When we talk about compassion fatigue? When we have to look at moral injury, professional depression, and desensitization. Right? I'm going to put these five, when I call them the professional ACEs. Right? We talk about ACEs all the time, but we don't really talk about the ACEs that happen inside of our profession. So when we look at professional grief, when that's that deep sadness that comes from carrying the weight of losing someone you were trying to help, or wondering what happened to them after they left, right? You know, all of us have that story that went untold, that we just don't really know what happened because services had to discontinue. Lives may have actually been lost, or success in that measurable was not had. I say it this way: professional grief. You guys have not yet met Jonathan. Jonathan is my program director. He's been my program director now for 6 years, for a while. His older brother was my one of my first clients, and I think I shared this with you all. He's doing 44 years in prison right now. We were just talking about him. I just had to re-up my visitation. We're planning on going to see him next month. They just moved him right up the road. And that's my professional grief. You pour in so much, and it changed the way I do business. It changed the way I did coaching and mentoring. It set me down for over 18 months. It impacted me a great deal. But some of us don't have the ability to sit ourselves down when things like that happen. So I want you to recognize, how does this show up for you? I want you to, as I go through these kind of definitions, I want you to connect and see if any of these have happened, and write these things down. We're writing for a purpose. Please write, type. It needs to flow out of you. You need to recollect it. It needs to be able to move, and I need you to be able to come back to it and reflect. So it's very important. Please, please, please write how this shows up for me. And we're either going to be talking about that professional grief, compassion fatigue, when caring so deeply for so long becomes emotionally exhausting. Compassion becomes harder to access, not because you stop caring, but because you have given so much. A lot of times in our profession, we call this a vigilance or a tough love. Like we think and we justify to ourselves, I came in this work too soft. Right? I was too soft. I didn't know nothing. And now I got to tighten up. I got to strengthen. Or that might be true. I've had clients that I've went into their organizations, and they'll start crying right there. A case will come in and they'll start crying. Now, listen, I understand that might be too much, right? That's a different level of kind of, that's not professional grief. We're not there. That's not compassion fatigue. We're not there. This is a little too soft, right? But compassion fatigue is where you are unable to, you're unwilling, right, to tap into the compassion. Again, I done told you 5 times. It's that mentality that kind of creeps out, and your filter drops. Moral injury, knowing the right thing to do, but being unable to do it because of policy, funding, resources, or systems. And it creates a deep internal conflict and sense of betrayal. A deep one. A deep one. See, most of us, this is where me as a CEO, the very first time I got a large grant, and I looked through it and it said that I can't provide food. I can't pay for food. So I would have kids come here and I would not, they would be starving and I couldn't buy them food. I had such a, like, my response to that was so deep that it began to shift how I wanted. Like, I was willing to lose it all. Kevin, hell, I'm gonna buy you something to eat, right? But you have to figure out, what does that moral injury look like when we often justify it as they need me more. Like, my clients need me here. So I can't, even though I don't like this, oh, I can't stand it. It just every time I gotta sit in my car next to just, what is that? Let's call a thing, and let's put that thing on the table. Because that moral injury shows up. Go ahead, Tracy. Or maybe just sitting on mute. The professional depression is often the thing that I look at, and we just are so in denial. And it's not clinical. It's occupational hopelessness. That's kind of what we define it as, right? I see a lot of us like, yep. And that becomes kind of, I think, Tracy, that's what you brought up in our very first training. It's just, it's hopeless. Like, do you see outside? What am I going to do? Little old me, I've lost the belief in the system, right? Those things become professional depression. What does that do to you? Where do you put that? Where's that stored away at? Who receives that energy? And then the thing that we all kind of, here's the biggest red flag that we all look at, and this is when it's too late, is the desensitization. Right. And that's, we all, extraordinary becomes ordinary. You don't celebrate, you don't survive. It's just, it is what it is. You know, this is 7 months ago. That's where I was. I had a kid. I had two of my kids get shot. I had a kid come in. He got shot 6 times. He came in my office 2 days later to record a podcast, and we sat there like nothing happened. And I thought to myself, what world am I living in, which somebody who I care about can come in with 6 holes in their body, and we're going to have a conversation like nothing happened? So once you get to this level, it becomes too late. So I want us to take a second, and I want us to be able to reflect intentionally, honestly, and in our own personal silence. I told you, this is not one where we want to move through. I want you to genuinely allow that thought to come in, those moments of trauma. I've called them our professional aces, because we're going to process them. We're going to learn, if we don't know already, we're going to learn a system to process, and I'll give you this tool. And then afterwards, please, again, I want everybody to make sure we're on the virtual portal. I'm going to upload an assessment. And this assessment will be able to give you a score. It has a bunch of questions, and it's going to give you a score. And I want us to collectively look at that score, so then we can look at our stress. It's almost stress testing our capacity, right? And I want us to have a compilation score as a cohort, so we're really able to know how we are and what this work is truly doing to us, right? So we will be able to move forward. So does anybody want to, I know this is a heavy, let me give a few minutes to, let's reflect. Let me not let my ADH win. Let me give us a few minutes to reflect. So take some time. I'm going to put those things, the couple of writing prompts back on the screen, and then I'm going to let us. Consider the skill changes. I want you to write whichever one or multiple, if that's where you are. It's important for us to write these, to capture these thoughts and to capture these moments and memories, and actually encapsulate them. And I'll share with us why. It's more than just an exercise. The expression of that and the movement of that is very important. Does anybody have anything that they would like to share in any of these? I know that it gets really personal. And so I don't, this is one that I don't require any of us to have to share, but sometimes it may help us to share and to help us to kind of understand the depth of that wound. And if not, that's absolutely good.
I'll share something that I've learned a lot since being in this role, that has really helped me a lot, which it's just funny that I even say this out loud, because so my sister is a pastor, and so I am the youngest out of my family, and so I'm the rebel. I do what I want when I want type of little sister.
Yeah.
I was just bad. Okay, I was a bad. I was in fights all the time. I did what I wanted to do. And so being in this work, I always had a heart to help people, but I didn't know how to express it when I was younger, because I was filled with anger and just, I had a lot of childhood trauma. And so as I become older, healing from those, going to therapy, like doing the shadow work on myself and, just working through those things. And now I'm in a position where I literally help people all day long. And it's been the most fulfilling job that I've ever had in my life. But I have grown closer to God. So for me, dealing with professional grief and just having compassion fatigue and moral injury, like all the things that are listed here, my faith has grown nothing but stronger. Because I also realized that I get a lot of people that pass away. We deal with people who are heavy in addiction and things like that, and they are, found in their, homes, and so sometimes we are making calls to, family and letting them know, hey, this person has passed away, or, have you heard from this person in a while, or we're searching for people. So for me, the way that I've dealt with a lot of this is I have really depended on my faith. I've never been more closer to God right now than I ever have in my whole life, only because I feel like I'm rooted and I'm grounded.
Yeah. So when you think about specifically when you're losing people, have you noticed, like you said, your faith has gotten stronger? What specific characteristic or skill set do you or can you attach that to awareness? Right. Let me say it that way. What awareness? I like us to, when we look at these professional, all of what we're talking about, I'm not asking us to go there, and I'm not trying to, it's not an emotional thing that we're going and looking at. It's so we can look at how these things deposited skill sets, how these things dulled skill sets and personality traits, right? It becomes it's a reflective tool where as we're writing it down, we're able to see, because I've lost people so much and I work in a space where we deal with so much death and grief. I don't really have a morbid response to death. I'm able, right, to find the celebration in grief, in death, right? And so that becomes a skill set that I might not have had before.
Yeah.
Right. So that's what
that's probably what it is that I've actually grown more compassionate, because I think that in this field we can easily throw people away in a sense, because it's like, oh, because they are addicted to drugs or whatever it is. I think that for me that I've grown more compassionate. I've not experienced the compassion fatigue, because I am like, these things happen, and I'm grateful that this person isn't suffering anymore, because sometimes being here is suffering, and so I appreciate the loss, and I'm not desensitized to it. Like I literally, I will still cry. I still have the compassion for people when I talk to them. I show real emotion, and that's something that they don't necessarily want you to show. But I do, because I'm one of those people where I'm like, this is how I'm feeling. I'm able to gather myself afterward, but I want people to know that I am an authentic and real person. I'm not a robot, and I don't operate in that way.
And it becomes important. Let me stop this real quick. Just share. It becomes important that we are able to acknowledge this. And I know sometimes we look at these things like, I don't really want to go through the emotions of what I've been through. I don't want to go back through that. I've healed from that. I'm not asking us to. Right. What I'm asking us to do is we're solving and we're really analyzing where you are on the journey of service. Right. A lot of us, I don't know if I say a lot of us, those like Karate Kid movies where you have like the master teacher, right? The Matrix, and you got the master teacher, and then you have that one, and they're teaching that one, and they get to a point in the training where they say, you no longer need training. Let's see some hands up. Go ahead, Tracy and Laura, go ahead. Or Tracy, go ahead first, and then Laura. I think I see your hands up.
Oh, okay, yeah. Hi. I was just going to speak to the burnout piece.
Yeah.
So I worked for hospice for like 10 years. And during that time I was there, I had a lot of personal losses, like several. And I kind of knew when I hit my wall. I always had like this bar that I would have, that if I started to not feel present for people, that would be my clue to go. And so I remember it was so defining. I went to a home visit, and my daughter was much younger then, and I had a client pass away. I had been there like almost 10 years. And I had a client pass away, and I was in the room with the past client and their family. And literally all I could think about was like getting to picking my daughter up, what I was going to buy for groceries, I was so just like, I could not bring myself to be present for this family. And I knew in that moment, like, it was time to go. I was like, I can't do this. And so, and then the job that I'm in now, it's a different kind of a wall. That was like a really emotional kind of like a desensitization. And what was really interesting is after I left that job, I was gifted with time to take a little break. And when I looked back on it, I was like, wow, that was like, I can't believe that was a job that I actually did day in and day out for 10 years. Yeah. And it's a system now that really, I personally feel most systems now use and abuse their employees, and it had become very corporate, and it's like milled people. Like it's like next. And I feel like part of what adds to the burnout is the programs that maybe we work for that don't acknowledge that there's emotional pieces. When I had started, I loved it so much because we have like a chaplain and we were able to talk a little bit about each person that passed, and like, you know, there was a prayer. It got so much so that it was like you just say the name and that they passed and then move on. And it was like there was no, you were almost scolded if you talked too long about the experience. And so that's kind of where I feel like I feel like I'm like that. And now I work for the government now, and I feel like, and especially with the climate that we're in, I feel very frustrated that our hands are tied by limited funding and people are burnt out and low staff. And I don't know, that's where I feel like my burnout is starting to really kind of generate from. So I don't know, that's kind of, it's different, you know?
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that, because I want us, when you say you recognize that burnout, so you've left a place. What I love is we always need professional boundaries, right? The reason that this conversation exists, the reason that we're going through this, is we need to be able to take the emotional layer off and look at it the same way that our government, our systems, our managers have to look at it, the bottom line. And you deserve that for yourself. You deserve to be able to measure and to track. My mother used to say, you need to know your market value all the time. You deserve to know where you are, what skills you are developing, what skills you have developed, what indirect skills that you develop, and when it's time to make a decision for you to go that you won't feel guilty about, right? Or to grow so you still have room to grow, right? Where you may look at that compassion fatigue and realize, yeah, I'm experiencing compassion fatigue. It does not mean that it's time for me to grow. There may still be some skill sets that I can gain, and that will help me learn to endure through this compassion fatigue. All of these ACEs are not for your emotional response and just reactions. These are the same as emotions. They're triggers, they're flags, they're indicators. And we need to be able to peel back the emotional layer and analyze what's actually happening. And Laura, I see your hand up, and I'm going to go ahead and get to you right in a second. But I want to introduce us to that tool that we're needing to put this in. Once we peel back the emotional layer, it's unrealistic for me to say, don't look at this through the emotional lens for a long period of time. Don't be emotional, just kind of be subjective. That's not realistic. What is realistic is in those 20 minutes that you're going and you're kind of losing in the driveway, or you're kind of recalibrating your mind in the driveway, what I need you to do is have a framework in your mind of how to think. How do I need to think about these emotions so I can make a rational decision that I don't have to feel guilty or overly celebratory about? This is not a win when I leave my service. It's not like I'm getting the hell out, I'm free. It's not, I didn't leave jail, right? I'm understanding how to land my plane. So what I wanted to put up here for us is to be able to share. I mentioned it in the front of the ADH, almost won, y'all, when I got to that SWAT. It's to be able to have that framework of dealing with our emotional thoughts. Where are you going to put these emotions, right? Continue, like the continue growing space, right? That's the skills, the leadership, the knowledge. What are you really looking to grow and to strengthen? That's when you say to yourself, what the hell am I doing? After something frustrating, or what am I doing? That's where you're going to answer this. You know what I'm doing? I'm learning, I'm strengthening, or I'm moving into my next step. Am I there yet? There's an actual framework to think about and answer, what am I doing? Maybe what am I protecting right now? What do I need to protect so I can stay well and keep serving? Like you said, Tracy said it I know that when I'm no longer present, right, that's my boundary. I have a boundary, and it's not that it's for them. It's I know myself, and that is not who I am, nor who I desire to be. I don't desire to sit in a space where grief is and I can't tap into compassion. That's not who I am. If that exists, I need to make a decision. And so, Tracy, I'm grateful that you made a decision. I'm so happy in the way that you framed that you were blessed with time. right? Because that's what we need, rest. So, what are you continuing to protect? That was a boundary that protected your ability to rest, because compassion fatigue is just that, burnout. So, I want us to be able to have these areas. This is the framework. What are you continuing to protect? Maybe what do I need to heal? I know this work. Here's the ignorant part of this. And I almost want to not share my screen so y'all can see my face. I don't know if you can or not. It's very important that you understand and understand that outside of, I can't even say you, outside of you might be being like maybe being a researcher, right? Like just really on the policy only end of it. There's something that you got into this work to heal internally. You're going to have to understand that. And if you deny that, you need to keep digging. You're not a servant out of choice. That's not a thing. You don't just choose it. It's not just it chooses you, and it's something in your life that has happened to create this burning passion. And that's what you need to identify so that you will understand and understand, grow or go. Here's what I had to realize, Kevin. Listen, Black boy trauma, you're done with it. It re-traumatizes you. You do not deserve that. You've healed through it. There's some other ways that you have to create some different boundaries because you've healed that place. Now, parental grief, I am still in this space of, so I can absolutely continue to put myself in the environment where parental grief and grief exists, and we're learning about it and we're healing it and serving it because it heals me as I'm helping and serving others. But it's when you're blindsided by it, like I was even. Why am I not? I go a year without speaking. Why? I realized that part of the story gives me way too much emotional burnout to keep telling. I don't want to tell this part of the story no more. And so you have to understand what parts of yourself you're healing. I didn't understand that I was trying to heal that by going through and talking to kids and doing and giving these emotionally charged speeches and presentations and where I'm giving of myself. I didn't realize that was healing me until it was burning me out. So it's important that right now you start doing that work and looking at truly what am I continuing? What am I healing? What am I releasing? What am I forgiving myself for inside of this work? And then you move over into the continuation. This is when you really know who and what do I need around me to keep me supported and inspired. And if that is not possible, it is time to go. It's like LeBron. Sad to say, he's leaving the Lakers. But he said it's time to go. Time to go. So I'm leaving this up for just a second. Laura, if your hand's still up, please go ahead and share. I want us to continue to think about this, right? There's 10 minutes left. And I tell you guys all the time, I'm going to honor your time. What I want us to reflect on in this moment is, where are you now?
Oh, that's the question to answer.
Go ahead, Laura. Go ahead, Laura.
I'm trying to be long-winded. I want to go back to like the other questions just really quick because it'll kind of tie into the other one.
How were we talking about the 5
like moral injury,
yep,
professional depression? Yeah. So like moral injury, just moving into medical social work since I was in like social services for 9 years prior, I just feel undervalued as a social worker, and with like just medical teams, nurses more so. So yeah, I feel undervalued, like there, because if you think about it, I try to tell them SDOH has a big influence on medical diagnoses. If someone has to choose between eating and going to get their insulin and they don't have the money, they're not going to go get their medicine. So I be trying to teach them like how those person environment, those frameworks kind of correlate to a lot of diagnoses and comorbidities and rehospitalizations. But some listen and some don't. And I'm just like, okay, I've been in medical a little long enough to know, coupled with my background, to know how these affect people. And then, go ahead.
No, I was going to ask because I want us to process this to the skill, right? The skill that you're learning, or what like that capacity is, right? Like, so when you're saying undervalued, a lot, that's the emotion that you feel, right? What is the cause, right? The causation, is it a lack of understanding that you have, or a lack of compliance, a lack of agreeability, right? And then how can we break this down to a skill that you're either developing and cultivating, or you're completely missing out on right now, right? Like if they're truly undervaluing and underappreciating you through a sign of disrespect.
I think that is just like maybe their lack of wanting to learn, or like listening. And so I picked up the skill set of active listening, because then I'm like, well, what is it that you need from me? You know, if there's something else I need to explain a little bit more. And then I open up the floor, so it's not like I'm talking at them. Like, you know, I try to do a collaboration approach. And then it doesn't make it any better from last one that my director is a nurse too, so all she sees is clinical and not the value of actually having a well-rounded social worker. Because I've done hospice, I've done inpatient rehab, you know, now I'm working at an insurance company, I did ambulatory social work, so I've seen all of in these different settings, and it's just a common thing. But you know, I put together presentations, I try to do an in-service, so, and then I try to figure out what their communication style is as well, to help me like kind of work around, you know, them. So I'm always open to flexibility as well. What was the other question you asked?
No, so I'm going to get this, you're at the crux, right? You're at the perfect space of being able to do this assessment, right? So again, I'm going to send out this assessment, and I'll email it to you, everybody, so just in case you don't necessarily get or on the portal. But I'm going to email everybody to get this email assessment. But we're going to look at the inside of this assessment. We're going to look at the passion, right? Do I still care? Your purpose. Do I still know my why? Energy and capacity. What has this work done to my energy? Professional health, growth. Am I becoming who I want to become? Impact. Does my work make a difference? Boundaries. Can I protect my peace? Self-awareness. How aware am I of myself? And cultivation. Am I investing in me? Because once you start to, and then you got your discernment piece of that. Once you start to look at all of these components, and Laura, I'm excited for you specifically. Will we have access to the portal after the last? Yes, absolutely. After the class you do. So I'm excited for you specifically because this gives us a chance to answer what's next. Right? When you begin to have this thought of, I've done this, I've done that, I've seen this, I've seen that, and these people or these systems don't want to change, you get to a place where you have to ask yourself, what are you going to do about it? What can you do about it?
I'm almost at the place where, following that professional depression, that I'm considering leaving social work altogether and transferring my skill set over to like risk management, HR, project development.
You're not leaving social work altogether.
That's true. I'm transferring those skill sets over. That's what I'm doing. Like looking at the skill sets I've developed, and I mean, you know, like I said, social work found me. I liked it, but I think that I've been doing it for over 12 years. It may be time for a change. Like I have leadership skills, strategic planning, just a lot of different things that I've learned over the years. And then being in medical, because I actually wrote that down considering, and I've been thinking about it for a while.
This is where it's good. This is where it's good. I want us to, when you promote, it's when we have a negative relationship with our past, we try to forget it. Right? We try to what we call move on. And when you move on from your past, it's literally debagging and walking away from. We don't need to do that. Most times you regret that. And then you slowly but surely reintroduce yourself to the skills that you got from your past. So I want you to be able to have a positive outlook on what's next, right? Because now you're able to see a lot of these frustrations, a lot of these system failures, a lot of these system gaps, and you're able to really have the precision right? It's almost like I told y'all, it's kind of like the weapon in me. There's certain weapons that you have that don't really matter, right? You just over that way. If you're over somewhere over there, then it's going to be effective. But then there's others that are so precise, right? That you just so precise. You may be that, right? Where you're so precise that if you can take all the fullness of your past, maybe some of the policy procedures you write in for HR, maybe some of the ways you go in to help shape companies really come from these lenses, the 12-year lens of how to shift. So when you're looking at your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, go back through here, look at that alignment and assessment. You may not be as efficient and effective with your skill set because you are not undervalued. There's a level of systemic ignorance.
I agree. Yeah.
Right. And when that exists, what you have to do is go higher. You just got to go up. And so if you're there, you have to have a reason. And this is the ability to reason. That's why I'm really excited for you to get these tools. And so then you can justify, okay, this is exactly where I need to go. I'm not leaving social work. I am redefining social work, right? I am cultivating, I'm carving out something a little bit different, right? So it's important that we have that opportunity. It's 3 minutes. Any questions, comments, or concerns on any of the things that I went over? I want us to make sure we're not taking it emotionally, right? This is not an emotional charge. This is for us to really just to take the emotions out of it and have a way that we can think, a framework for us to think about where we are, what we're learning and growing, how our passions are being impacted, how our skill sets, characteristics are being impacted by the work we do, and taking ownership of that, becoming your own business and brand, and knowing I'm not waiting to get fired, I'm not waiting to get promoted. I'm literally taking this by the horns and understanding how I am developing self inside of social work and inside of human service by being able to be efficient and effective, listening to myself, being able to honor myself and others. Y'all, how y'all feeling? We good?
Okay. I just wish I could bottle you up and just like give it to everybody. Like,
listen,
hey, you need that.
I'm telling y'all don't understand. I'd be getting excited for these calls. Tracy jumped on an hour early and I was like, I was about to jump on too. Right? So listen, I'd be excited. I know this one, we didn't have as many on as we would have liked, but it's okay. I'm always believing in purpose. I always believe that we have who we need and who's needed on these calls. So I'll see you guys in a couple of weeks, and I'm really excited. Any of y'all registered for the golf tournament or going to the golf tournament? Or is it like I'm the ignorant one because it's way too damn hot? And like, y'all like, ain't no way in hell.
Too hot.
Too hot.
And I don't know how to golf.
Oh, y'all got to come out. Listen, I enjoyed my round of golf when I was there last time. I'll be there, I believe, on the 24th. I would love for us to do here in Tallahassee, Leon County, my organization, we host men's mental health check-ins and women's mental health check-ins. I would love to host a family mental health check-in when I come down there. I don't know if that's something that you all or any of you all are interested in, but I would love to work with you guys to figure out how we can do that. The coalition has been gracious enough to offer their space to use. So that's up to 40. I would love to go ahead and just start planning that to just have just a mental health and wellness check-in. That's kind of what we do. It's a panel kind of discussion that we have, an open forum panel discussion in which it's like a hybrid Ricky Lake, Montel Jordan meets Oprah, and we just really sit down there and let them talk, and we give them feedback, and we love on them, and we connect them to the resources that exist. And the whole point of that was to normalize having mental wellness issues, right? So we all have it and we need to discuss it. And so I would love to work with you guys. Like I said, I'll be there from the 24th of August all the way through the 26th or the 27th. I'll decide that last extending part depending on how we are able to do it. So if any of your organizations would like to be vendors or to work or partner together to make that happen, I would love to do that. This is just something, again, I would love to bring to you all. This isn't things that we wrote grants for or tried to get paid for. this is just something that I would love to kind of leave when I come there. So,
what's the date you said?
I get there on August 24th. Our training is, I believe, the 25th, and then the golf tournament is the 26th. So we could do anything on the 25th, or I can stay on the 27th, and we can kind of make that happen. But or the 24th, depending. Y'all flights to get into Phoenix is crazy. Like it's terrible to fly into Phoenix. It's insane. So I'll be like late. It'll be late on the 24th. Like I think the flight gets in at 7 or 6 or 7. You guys' time PM. So I am open. I would love to do this. And if we can, I would bring one of my team members so you guys will meet John. If we are able to kind of kick this off and go from there. But I appreciate you guys so much. If there's no other questions, comments, concerns, I'm going to give you guys I took 2 minutes. Sorry. All right. Later, guys.
All right. Thank you guys. Have a great day.
Make sure you get on the portal.
Guys. All right.
Thank you.
And that's session 3. Effectiveness isn't about doing more. It's about doing what matters on purpose, from a place of alignment. Carry this question with you this week. Where am I out of alignment? And what's one small correction I can make? Next time, in session 4, we explore compassion in action. Until then, remember, awareness creates choice creates change creates impact. Thanks for listening.